Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Squared Away Life. My name is Camden Busey. I'm working through chapters in my forthcoming book, The Compounding Mind, and here we come to Chapter 4, Preparedness as Peace of Mind. Now, I'm sure you've dealt with difficult things. I deal with difficult things time to time. And often in the moment when you're stressed, when you're struggling with things, you feel lost. You feel out of control, maybe even out of touch, and you feel like you don't know how to handle it. Well, that's where this chapter can help. This chapter can help you gain perspective on your crisis in the moment. It will help you get outside of that particular difficult moment to consider things with greater context and greater perspective. Now, we all have a cognitive bias toward the present moment, and current problems feel uniquely urgent. They often feel uniquely difficult, uniquely important. This recency bias causes us often to overweight current circumstances and forget that we've navigated similar challenges before. But the daily review that I advocate, which is looking at your notes, looking through your journal, looking at all your notes in a systematic way. Every day you look at your notes from a week ago, a month ago, and every year prior. When you do a daily review, it breaks this spell. When you read your thoughts from a week ago, a month ago, and a year ago, and every year before that, you gain something invaluable. You gain perspective. You start to see that the crises that felt overwhelming in the past actually resolved themselves, or the patterns that you're experiencing now have occurred before. And your capacity to handle challenges is greater than you remember. And you can also see that most urgent issues, things you thought were so pressing, were crushing you because of their importance and urgency in the grand scheme of things, weren't actually that important. Well, this isn't about minimizing your current challenges, but it's about approaching them with the wisdom of your accumulated experience rather than the panic of perceived novelty. Nassim Taleb distinguishes between three types of systems. Fragile systems are those that break under stress. Robust systems are those that resist stress, but anti-fragile systems are those that grow stronger from the stress. And the daily review practice creates an anti-fragile mind. Each challenge that you document and review becomes data, becomes a point of information and knowledge and perhaps even wisdom that strengthens your future response to similar situations. You're not just merely surviving difficulties, but you're metabolizing them, you're alchemizing them, transforming them into wisdom, applied knowledge. And when you review past challenges and you see how they resolved, you start to build pattern recognition for which problems solve themselves. You build pattern recognition for which issues require immediate action, and also which concerns were overblown in the big scheme. And finally, which intuitions actually proved correct. Now, I'd like to talk about the preparedness mindset framework. Now, daily review creates three interconnected levels of preparedness that work together to transform how you navigate life. The first aspect here is operational preparedness. It's a tactical readiness. Now, the most immediate benefit is operational clarity. When you review your notes consistently, you know what you've committed to without scrambling through your emails or hoping that your memory is working properly and everything's right there at your fingertips, so to speak. Important details actually surface when you need them, when you have a good system. Context for decisions becomes accessible rather than fragmented across various conversations and forgotten conversations and half-remembered meetings. And when you do a daily review, a systematic daily review, you can actually start to retrieve key information instantly because you've seen it recently, you've reinforced it through review, and you know where it lives in your system. This is the practical foundation to it all, the daily confidence that comes from knowing that you're on top of things. But you also need to consider emotional preparedness or resilience. Something deeper happens when you review your past notes. You start to build an emotional resilience. You've documented how you've handled difficulties before. And seeing that record reminds you of your capability. You begin to recognize your emotional patterns, such as the early warning signs of stress or the situations that trigger anxiety and the environmental factors that affect your mood. This has been really huge for me. And over the last several years, since I've been taking notes, journaling, and reviewing those systematically, I've really increased and improved my emotional intelligence. When you do this, you become familiar with your triggers and with your responses, and that removes their power to blindside you. And perhaps most valuably, you've captured your recovery strategies, the ways that got you through it. When you hit a rough patch, for example, you're not starting from scratch, but you have a documented toolkit of what actually works for you. But the third level emerges over time. When you consistently review notes from a year ago, for example, patterns start to become visible that you couldn't see in the daily rush. You begin to understand the trajectory of your efforts, not just where you're going, but how you're getting there. You recognize which investments are actually paying off and which are consuming energy without returns, whether those are literal financial investments or investments of other things, your other resources, your time, your attention, your relationships. You start to understand your patterns of growth, the conditions under which you learn fastest, and the types of challenges that develop your capabilities and the relationships that accelerate your progress. This perspective allows you to anticipate future challenges rather than merely react to them. You move from being tactically competent to being strategically positioned. Now, together, these three levels create a compound effect. Operational preparedness frees your mind to notice emotional patterns, and then emotional awareness creates the stability for you to think strategically. And strategic thinking improves your operational decisions. The system, you see, reinforces itself, and you become progressively more prepared across every dimension of your life. The daily review here transforms your uncertainty into confidence. Through documentation, you can say, I've handled this before, here's how. Through pattern recognition, which allows you to say, this is part of a larger cycle that I now understand. And also through evidence. And then you can say, my past predictions show I can trust my judgment here. But it also helps you to gain perspective. Because in the grand scheme, you can find out and have the peace of mind that all of this is manageable. And in fact, you've dealt with a lot of this stuff before. Preparedness is a peace of mind. So let's get this squared away. The key principle here is that regular review, the review of your journal, your notes a week ago, a month ago, and every year before, that transforms your present overwhelm into an historical perspective. The simple action I'd like for you to take is tomorrow morning, I'd like for you to read any notes that you have from exactly 1 week ago. That's all you got to do. Read those and gain perspective. Think about where you were a week ago and think about what that means for you now. The mindset shift here is from this is unprecedented to I have data, knowledge, wisdom on similar situations. Thanks so much. This has been the Squared Away Life podcast. Please visit us online at squaredawaylife.com. If you would like to get a pre-publication free copy of this book, an EPUB and PDF format, subscribe to our email newsletter, again, at squaredawaylife.com. My name is Camden Busey. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.